Welcome to Follow the Content Leaders, a podcast where we want to learn how leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, coaches, and consultants have built their businesses and exactly what role has content played in their strategies. Hello everyone, good morning. I'm today super happy because I'm joined with Shima Ghaheri. Hope I said that properly. She is a board game designer who turned into a playful mindfulness coach. So you have a super interesting background that I'm excited to learn more about today. I've also seen you're a TEDx speaker, so maybe I will have some questions around that too. So welcome, Shima. How are you feeling today?
Hi, Monica. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all your people. And
Thank you for joining.
sure, I'm doing great. How's your day going?
Good. Very good. We have big time differences, so it's kind of end of day for me, beginning of day for you, but that's the magic of digital business, right?
So true. Yes.
Awesome. So the one random question I always like to start these episodes with is what is the one thing that you cannot work without? So what would be that one thing that you always need to have around your desk or wherever you.
Oh, so it needs to be like an object. All right. Let me think about it.
It can be many things, whatever you comes to mind.
I mean, because when you started your question, I was gonna say people. I love working with people,
Hmm.
but in terms of an object, I would say my headphones. I love them. I can't work without them. Usually, when I start doing the deep work or just getting into the flow, I need to put my headphones on and then see what happens next.
Do you listen to music through your headphones while you're working or podcast? What is your
I mean, if I
jam?
need to be focused, it's usually just some lo-fi music. But if I don't need to focus a ton, then absolutely, I listen to a lot of podcasts and just enjoy the day because usually there's a lot of noise around me and that bugs me.
Hmm.
So I need to be using my headphone to get into the zone, get to the job, and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I used to work in open spaces when I was a lawyer, so I got used to isolating myself through also lofi music. So I get that 100%.
I feel
Awesome.
you. Yeah,
So
that's a habit that I have it from my employees' day too.
yeah, right. And after it's kind of hard to get into the habit of concentrating and doing deep work without the music. So you have to kind of relearn it.
Exactly.
Yes. So amazing. You can explain to me a bit more what is it that you did in the past, your journey, what is it that you're doing at the moment? I'd love to learn everything about it.
Absolutely. So, the way that my journey started, I started studying industrial design. That's my background, basically. And when I learned that I can design toys and games and anything related to products for kids, I was just mind blown that, oh my God, I can do this for the rest of my life. And I loved it. It was so much fun, a lot of challenges on the way, but I'm always up for challenges. So that made me feel the best basically when I started studying industrial design. And then later on, I had a bunch of dreams, right? Like work at the top one, like top companies in the world in toy design. So I decided to move to the United States for my master degree in industrial design. And then I ended up working at awesome places like Hasbro, Spin Master, to name a few. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned a ton on my journey, a lot of new challenges, working on some cool projects. For example, one of the first projects that I worked on is right behind me, these little guys. That's a
Yeah.
combination of Mr. Potato Head and Toy Story 4. So when I saw them on the shelves a year later, it was just magic, right? Oh my God, I made this. This is awesome. Like I can see people playing with my little ones. And then um, I ended up working in entertainment industry for almost 12 years. A lot of games, I mean, mostly board games, puzzles, some toys for some brands. And then I ended up burning out. So I had a hard time figuring out what's going on, what's the problem. A lot of do it yourself and figuring out what are the options out there to help me get out of that situation, get out of my burnout and recover from that. And after a few months, I left my job, started my new journey. After I was recovered, it was just my passion. Let's help other people not suffer from what I suffered from. And I had to do more studies and like a bunch of certifications in this area to learn more about burnout. What are the symptoms? What are the like all the things that comes with it, right? So because it took me a few years to do all of this, I didn't want others to suffer from the same thing and go through that same journey as I went through. And I ended up becoming a burnout coach with a bit of mindfulness and with a bit of playfulness and all the things that I have learned in my journey.
Beautiful, right? It's so, for me, it's always interesting to learn about people who've burned out or transitioned from one thing to another thing that's so different, partly because I resonate a lot with that journey because I also went from a very corporate job to a completely different one. Both in our cases, both things we did both in the past and now are still different, but still the transition, the figuring out who you are, the figuring out what you can do next. I think it's kind of a similar journey that we can always relate to. And what I would like to know more about here is maybe the reasons why you felt you burned out and why you did that burned out while still having a job that, as you said, was magical and that was having a positive impact in the world, right?
Yes. So, see, this is one of the challenges in entertainment industry. You get into the industry, you feel like it's gonna be always rainbows and unicorns and all the beautiful things, and it is. It's so much fun to get to play test new products, new items, to work with other awesome people in this industry. But there are a few problems. First, unfortunately, entertainment industry it's usually understaffed, and there's a lot of work to get done. Also, because you're supposed to follow the trends, all the things that are out there, and make sure your products are ready to go. Like, for example, Toy Story 4, you are working on that item a year before the show is released. You have to make sure all the timelines are working perfectly fine. So when the show is released, your product is also out there in the market. So nothing can go wrong, basically. There's not enough room, like enough wiggle room in the timeline for all these mistakes. So you're always on rush 24/7. You are working on a bunch of projects. In one of the companies that I worked for example, I remember I was working on 54 projects in 1 year. That's more than a project per week. So part of
Yes.
that is that because I loved working on them, I enjoyed it, and I would sign up my name for new projects, new products. So that's so part of it is on me. But on the same, I mean, another problem is that the culture of this industry wants you to work more. There has been incidents that I had to work on my weekends, like back to back for 2 3 months. So it felt that I never had a chance to take real breaks. Also, what I ended up doing that made me feel more burnt out is that I always knew that I want to have my own business, my own either design studio, or I didn't know what it's gonna be, but I knew I want to start my own business at some point. So I kept challenging myself to move from one job to another one, to get to know different fields, to go from one position to another position. That's put a lot of pressure on you. But funny enough, when right now I look back to see what happened, what really happened to me that made me feel burned out was none of these challenges. It's that I was not being challenged enough at my one of my last jobs, basically. And but by that, what I mean is that
Mm-hmm.
I ended up working on a lot of spreadsheets, on a lot of non-creative responsibilities that was not aligned with my self, with my beliefs, with my values, and that made me burn out. I was losing my why, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened. So many times people feel like because they are working way too many hours, they are burning out. That could be one situation. So many other times they are having struggles in the environment that they are. It feels like it's a toxic environment. That could be another reason that they are burning out. But in my case, I believe not being challenged enough made me feel burnout. Losing my why made me feel burnout.
Yeah, I get that. There is the overwork and there is the type of work, right? And both of them can make you feel burned out, and the combination is the worst, I think, or the one that will most likely take you to the burnout stage.
That's true.
But happy that you managed to get out of that situation and now you're doing something else that's much more aligned with your why. So tell us a bit more about how long have you been doing this and what exactly is it that you're helping your clients with at the moment.
Sure. So I started last January, so it's been more than a year and a half. The
Mm-hmm.
beginning, it was mostly focused on e-commerce business, making some self-love, self-care products, and just making a bunch of arts and crafts, like some handicrafts at home, sell it to people with the hope that my message is going to be spread out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, that I'm a people person and I didn't have that part of it, like in my e-commerce business. So I started brainstorming again and figuring out, so what can I do to make sure that my new work, my new journey is a combination of what I loved as a designer, what I love as a people person, what I love as someone who needs to be challenged every single day, and coaching seemed like the perfect fit for me. I had all these little pieces of my puzzle basically all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I put them together, it made so much sense. So I've been focused on my journey as a coach for almost a year now, and what I help people with, it's mostly helping them figure out what's the problem, what are the root causes, like what is their why. And with my clients, we make sure that we I mean, I help them, I question them a lot so they can find their new why, find what's
Mm-hmm.
making them um, motivated to move forward, what is something that is keeping that like spark every single day in their lives that wants them to wake up on a Monday, to get back
Mm-hmm.
to work. It doesn't mean loving like leaving their job. It could mean like finding a new why, finding a new challenge, finding something that's like more aligned with their values. Or on the other side, if the problem is feeling overwhelmed, how to set new boundaries, how to do some time managements. So depending on their problems, their situations, we make a new like roadmap to move forward with
Mm-hmm.
that, to have a plan, to know what to do next, so it doesn't feel overwhelming as much anymore. And then eventually, hopefully, they can get out of that overwhelmed situation or burnout situation and recover from that.
Beautiful, right? Because at the end of the day, you're helping them overcome the process or the journey that you just went through. So when you teach from experience and from kind of self knowledge, I think it's the most possible, or the most positive thing you can do for your clients. So I love that. I would like to now kind of understand a bit better if you've used content to try and find these clients. What part has content played in all of this journey that you've just gone through in this past year and a half or 2 years?
Sure. At the beginning, because I was new to business, it was mostly word of mouth, like asking my friends and friends of friends to join me if they are dealing with the same situation. My family members, like everyone who was supportive, it helped me a ton. starting my journey. But at some point, you run out of people, right? So you have to start new strategies and figure out what's the best way moving forward for your business. So I started putting a ton of content on mostly LinkedIn recently. Also, I started my Instagram page for my coaching business. And then next month, I'm going to be more focused on my YouTube. So the whole system is going to be working together. But LinkedIn has been an amazing platform for me so far. At the beginning, it was so challenging because I was talking about a problem that's a lot of time coming from corporate, and LinkedIn is a corporate place. So it took me 2 months to convince myself to remove all the things that I had from my, not everything, but basically switching from an employee version of myself to a businesswoman, to someone who is
Yeah.
working as a coach now. um, I was afraid that I'm like burning those bridges, right? You don't want to start putting a lot of content that's telling people you need to take action. And also, mental health, still there's some stigma going around with it. People are having a hard time to open up, to speak up. So when I started my journey, I started a little bit of like a LinkedIn newsletter. And the reason for that was not to put a ton of work out there and like have everyone looking at it. It was actually the opposite. I was not confident enough for sharing my stories and my challenges and my experiences, because it's hard to expose yourself out there. So I was hoping that by starting something smaller, I can get confident and be more open to share. But after just 1 week, 400 people signed up on my newsletter. And I was like, oh my
Wow.
God, this is not what I signed up for. So, but still, I had promised myself that I'm going to be open, that I'm going to speak up on either LinkedIn or any other social media platform, because I want to make connections with people on a deeper level. And that's what happened. I started sharing my informations, my content, everything on LinkedIn. And people started DMing me. Like sometimes they were not even my first connections, they were second or third connections on LinkedIn. They were not liking or commenting anything on my main content, but on the direct messages, they felt safe to tell me that this is their story too. And because they are afraid that their coworkers, their employers are gonna see their reactions, they prefer to message me um, on the side. So that got me more motivated to be like, to show up for myself and for everyone. Part of this journey is healing myself too. So I'm not going to say that it's all for people. When you heal, then that's going to overflow and people are going to notice that and people are going to trust you too. And that's what has happened so far. People are trusting my content, my new journey, and they reach out for help.
Yeah, it's you defined perfectly the journey that I think everyone goes through when they start publishing content. I've had many clients experience that exact same fear at the beginning, and myself too, when I changed my profile into, okay, we're gonna turn this thing that's LinkedIn in our profile into a profile that we want to generate business with, or a profile that we want to generate a brand with. And that's very, very, very scary at first, especially if you've never worked for yourself or you're never been your advocate, right? And learning that is such a great personal journey. And as you said, when we share content, we do it to create a community, to find clients, to create a brand. But you have to do it for yourself first. As you also said, it's a bit like you will never be good with your partner except if you're first good with yourself, right? So for me, it's the same. You will never find the good clients on the platform, or you will never find uh, but never build a good brand on the platform if you're not doing it for yourself, and if you're not aligned with what you're building for yourself and your why and everything we discussed before, right? So it was beautifully explained from beginning to end, and I'm sure many people just like me can relate to that journey. I'm curious also to know a bit, because obviously you were already a creative person before. You were creating games and characters and everything. How did the process of the creative process that you had before help you in then transferring that creativity into creating content on LinkedIn or this newsletter that you were mentioning? How, which similar things did you do in that process?
That's a really interesting question. I would say, I mean, being creative has definitely helped me a ton with the new content, what kind of visuals I want to add to my text to make it more appealing to the new clients, to the new people. But on the other side, like something that has challenged me a ton is that I was a creative person. It was always just about like visuals, graphics, illustrations. So translating that to word was really a struggle for me, especially as someone who is not a native speaker. I had to
Yeah.
learn a lot about different strategies for making new content, for the copywriting and all of that. But again, um, having that creative background helps me find new opportunities, new ways to reach out to other people. Or because I've been always working in entertainment industry, that made me more open to start networking with people, connecting with them, making it playful so they are also open to have these conversations with you. I'm reaching out to so many other people, like coaches, someone who has done it before, businesswoman, um, everyone that I can learn from, and then open up and be like, this is my struggle now. Are you willing to support me? Are you willing to help me? And we have all awesome conversations and on how to collaborate and how to support each other. So that's something that has been super helpful for me. That's coming from my background, years of experience in industry, in the corporate world, in the entertainment industry, and in my life as a whole.
And LinkedIn is a perfect place for that, right? Because I think it's a platform that fosters a lot of this networking side of the social networking, and not only the content creation, but also this engaging in private messages and generating real conversations with people out there, right?
That's so true. And also, the biggest advantage that I have found on LinkedIn is that people are there with an intention to learn or to grow or to get support from other people compared to some other platforms that are more for entertainment. So it's much easier to start those conversations with them because that's why they are on the platform. Let's say, for example, on Instagram, it's much harder to start a serious conversation for a potential client in our field. I'm not saying for all the other fields, like for
Yes.
e-commerce, definitely e-commerce, like Instagram was helping me more. But for coaching, I don't think that's the right platform for me. Like, it's awesome for putting more content and publishing it just to get awareness, but at the end of the day, LinkedIn has been my main.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was the same, and I also decided to focus 100% on LinkedIn because partly of how it fosters this networking and this community building positive side of. Great. So it's been great talking with you. I have only one last question that I always like to ask all my guests, and that is, what is the one book that has impacted you the most and that you would like to share with us today?
Hmm, interesting. Let me think. One book that I recently read that I loved, that helped me with a lot of like changing my mindset on how to look at things was, it's called The Gap and the Gain by Dr. Sullivan. The reason that I like this
Okay.
book is that it just basically tells you about the way that we look at future, the way that we look at our main goals, like our target goals. It's always like we are here, we have all these beautiful goals in our mind, thinking about the future, and when we feel like we are not getting to that point, like for example, we get one step closer to that ideal, and then we make it bigger. We make that target bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's always moving. So you're always in this gap mindset between you and your ideal version. It's what keeps you like motivated moving forward. But if you are focus on this way too much, then you're going to be focused on what's lacking and what's missing. So with a bunch of practices, you can easily switch your mindset to look back and where were you 5 years ago, where were you 10 years ago, and look at your accomplishments and make sure you are celebrating your wins before moving forward. And that's the game mindset that is so empowering. So I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but it's been a beautiful book that I read, and I highly recommend everyone to read it.
Lovely. Yes, it sounds great. And it sounds perfect to read throughout your summer and reassess your goals when you come back, right?
Absolutely right.
Amazing. So it's been great speaking with you. And I hope you go on to have a lovely day, Shima.
Thank you so much, Monica, for having me again, and you too have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye bye.